One day there will be no oil, or significantly less oil than we become accustomed to. Questions in two parts. What's the timeline for this, and how will this affect individuals and businesses?
The problem with answering the question about the timeline is that it's a very complex system. Doesn't mean I'm not going to have a go, but actually the decline in oil is locked into a whole lot of issues about our response to that and our adaptation to that. But let's just sort of unfold the story a bit and see how we go. Obviously until 2 or 3 years ago, people who believed that peak oil, the point at which we'd used up half of the reserves, was going to happen any time soon, were kind of regarded as extremely marginal, and they were extremely marginalised as well. Right now, even the International Energy Agency, which probably it's fairly conservative, but it's definitely mainstream, seems to be suggesting that we've passed the point of peak oil probably in 2008, possibly in 2007. The data's a bit unclear. So what we end up with then is there's less oil to extract. It's harder to extract the stuff that we know is there.
And therefore more expensive.
More expensive, it's riskier, as BP discovered. And some of the alternative oil sources, things like tar sands and all the rest of it, are both expensive in terms of extracting them, and also environmentally disastrous. So you've already got quite a complex system there, which is what alternatives are there in terms of just oil, and what's the price point going to be. Now, moving beyond that, obviously there's alternatives here. There's quite a lot of renewables out there. We're vastly underinvested in renewables pretty much everywhere. Even in China and Germany, where they've been world leaders, they're probably underinvested as where they'd probably want to be. So part of the question is, to what extent can you get substitutes in place? Right now, if you had any significant number of electrically powered vehicles on the UK grid, you'd crash the electricity system. That's the perceived view anyway. Probably true. So then you get into the extent to which people start modifying their behaviour. And you also get the point that actually as you have sort of falling oil availability, but you still have quite strong industrial growth in emerging markets, demand is
increasing
supply.
Yeah. And
so you're in a classic sort of price going up. Actually, then you get into another piece of the complex systems picture, which is that does that price move up steadily or does it spike? And although every hedge fund manager in the world denies they've had anything to do whatsoever to any of the oil price spikes we've had recently, there seems some evidence to say that some of the really uneven behaviour,
the
jaggedness has been caused by speculators coming in, speculators going out again, as it has in the food market as well. So that's all a very complicated way of saying that actually it's hard to predict what's going to happen, except that we know that the price will go up. We don't know how fast it'll go up. We don't know what the trend line is like yet. But then on top of that, you have another part of this equation, which is while there is not sufficient alternatives in terms of energy supply, other alternatives to energy supply, apart from increasing use of coal, also environmentally disastrous. And even that only substitutes for certain things that oil can do. While you don't have those, every time demand's picking up and supply is squeezed, 120, 125, 130, and quite a lot of the economic models we have seem to think that that's the point at which recession kicks in. So actually, there's one sort of future of oil scenario which basically says the price will never really go, back, up to the 140, 150 that we saw briefly a while ago for any length of time, because as soon as that happens, it brings the economy back into recession. And there's certainly economists out there who have charts which show that the financial crisis was actually a response to the crash, and it was caused by oil. The crash was caused by oil, not by the banks. The banks just suffered from the fact that the crash happened. And those charts are out there, and economists argue about that sort of thing. So it's kind of a long way of saying we don't quite know. But I think we can be fairly sure there's going to be quite a long period in which we don't have enough energy. That becomes a dominant feature of industrial management until renewables actually start filling the gap. And I think actually this is one of the few areas about the future one could be moderately optimistic about, which is that the cost of solar, the price performance ratios of solar are plummeting at the moment. You know, they're on a sort of a improvement curve which actually looks quite like the early computers.
Sort of Moore's law.
Yeah, you've seen the Moore's law stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, actually, you know, and there's been moments in the German economy recently where solar has been putting more into their grid than nuclear has. So, you know, it's only been brief moments, but those are kind of, you know, classic examples of emerging signs that the market is shifting. But it's going to take a while to get that kind of power back into the system.